So sitting down here with Tom Houck, one of the founders of Claw Wrestling. And Tom, I really appreciate you taking some time to give us some insight on the new wrestling league that you and a couple of your other founders kind of came up with. So first, obviously Claw stands for something. So let us know what Claw stands for and kind of how you guys came up with the concept and what made you feel like now was the right time for a new wrestling league.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Yeah, CLAW stands for Champions League of American Wrestling. We went back and forth on that many times because we don't love those exact words. We really liked claw. So then it was trying to figure out what words worked with claw. Because at first we were calling this attack wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then for various reasons, we ended up switching it to American. But that's what it stands for, Champions League of American Wrestling.
Yeah.
And yeah, we thought the time was ripe for this for a lot of reasons. I mean, wrestling has really needed a professional league forever, right? And there's been attempts to do it in the past. It's a shame that wrestling doesn't have a senior level professional league that guys can compete in and make money, and fans can follow, after they're done with college. And you look at the landscape now, especially with the internet, and there's so many sports and even things that aren't really sports, now have professional leagues. I was watching professional tag a couple of weeks ago. There's cornhole, there's anything and everything, except, wrestling's a real sport and no professional league for wrestling. So also you have the NIL happening, and that's changing the college landscape and could be a threat, to RTCs and funding for RTCs and senior level wrestling. So for a lot of reasons, it seems like the timing is good. And our process started with I was involved with another group, working on a professional league, and we kind of branched off from that because we really wanted this. We believe this has to be fan focused. There's so much competition for eyeballs and so many entertainment options for people, sports and otherwise. I mean, we really have to focus on the fans and give them what they want. Understand what fans want to see in sports, what they like, what they don't like, what engages them, and then really with a blank sheet of paper, think about the sport of wrestling, and come up with hopefully a better product. So we've been on this for almost 2 years now, and I didn't think the research and testing and everything that we've been doing would take this long, but it has, and it is, and we're planning to launch the league in 2025. So we're still a year and a half from the first official league matches happening. We're doing some preview events, but so 3.5 years after we started this, the league will finally launch with matches. And I just never dreamed it would take that long. When we were doing some research on some other professional leagues, similar things happened, like the Premier Lacrosse League. It took them years to develop their partnerships and the distribution and everything that had to go into it. And I'm like, why does it take that long? But we're learning in real time here that to do it right. And that's one thing we were adamant about. We're not going to try to do this incrementally or second rate. I mean, we have to be a legitimate professional league, on par with other top leagues, if people are going to embrace it and accept it and end up watching it.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that, we obviously have had a number of leagues in the past that didn't pan out. What did you guys learn from those, and how will you be different to make sure that you don't end up on, kind of that list of casualties that we've had in the past?
Yeah, it's a great question because we've studied the past attempts and talked to people involved in those attempts. And we've also done extensive research on just other sports leagues, the big ones that everybody knows about, but also alternative sports and lesser known leagues. And there's all kinds of different models and different approaches, to trying to make it work. So getting best practices, but also learning from the failures and stumbles from some of the others. I think in the case of wrestling, the first thing that we've said all along is we have to make it commercially viable. Wrestling now is a sport where it's so much donor supported. All the clubs, all the teams, just everybody sort of needs money from donors. And
Hmm.
we have to make something commercially viable, that fans want to pay to see, to watch, to attend in person, to create sort of an economic flywheel so that we can have a professional sport. So we view this, we're all wrestling people. We love wrestling, but we first and foremost have to view it as business people. How can, because if we can't create the economic engine to make it work, it doesn't matter how great the product is. So we really view it as a business that's, and we want to create a media and entertainment company, that uses wrestling, as its showcase sport. Uh, Whereas perhaps I don't want to speak poorly of anybody. Anybody who's tried to do this, deserves great credit because it is an uphill battle. But I think sometimes, wrestling people tend to think in a bubble, and they you got to get outside the bubble. We have to think like other sports fans. We have to attract and appeal to people who know nothing about wrestling, who are watching it for the first time. It can't just be a sport that, when you go to a wrestling event, if you love wrestling, you'll love it, and if you don't love wrestling and you don't know anything about it, it's kind of like too bad. And that happens too much. I was at a big event in the fall, and it was a great event with great wrestling. But if you weren't a wrestling fan, they did nothing for you to make it, to educate you, to bring you in, to make you have a good time. And so at our events, we want to make it, whether you're a new fan or you don't even really care anything about wrestling, you're still going to have a great time. It's going to be a great entertainment experience. Uh, and if you do love wrestling, you'll hopefully see great wrestling as well. I kind of compare it to like Major League Baseball. If you go to a baseball game, it's very family friendly. It's very kid friendly. There's all kinds of things to engage people in between innings and before the game. And but if you're a hardcore fan, that doesn't take away from that. So the fact that we're Pittsburgh Pirate fans, my family, so they have the pierogi races, after whatever inning. In DC here, it's the presidents, the four presidents run around
Hmm.
and have this race. The fans love it. The people who don't care anything about the game love it, but it doesn't take away from the hardcore fan either. So we have to appeal to all those people. That's kind of a long, rambling answer to your question, but it's viewing it as a business, understanding that we have to attract new people. And how do we attract fans that, might not know anything about wrestling right now?
Hmm. Yeah, and part of that is the rule set. Obviously, we have folk style rules, we have freestyle rules, we have Greco rules. You guys are going with a different model when it comes to the rules. First, how did you come up with those rules, and why not go with a rule set that the wrestling fans already know to at least appeal to the community that is already kind of built into I guess what would be built into the league?
Yeah, so we started off, you see all the social media debates and in-person debates about folk style versus freestyle and all that, and we basically concluded, in the United States, folk style is still much more popular, than freestyle, and but there's some issues with folk style that people don't like, and sometimes it's boring. And then freestyle has its advantages, and at times it's super exciting and great to watch. But a lot of times it's confusing, especially, I mean, sometimes even for wrestling fans,
Yeah.
how the refs score things. And there's some things that, I mean, there's a lot of folk style fans that don't like freestyle. They think some of the stuff is goofy, or they just don't like it. So we said, uh, first, it all started off with some fairly extensive research on what do fans like in sports. Why do they watch sports? What engages them? What do they not like? So this had nothing to do with wrestling. This is just in general. I spent a lot of time researching that. And then, sort of with that basis of knowledge, we're like, okay, well, do you do folk style? Do you do freestyle? Do you do Greco? Do you do something else? And it's pretty simple. We said we want the things that people like about folk style, and we want the things that people like about freestyle, and the things that they don't like or find confusing, we want to eliminate or minimize it at least. And so that led to a long, long process of brainstorming and testing rules. We ended up testing our rules with We've done about 60 matches with D1 and senior level wrestlers. At this event that we're doing in June, which is sort of a preview of the league, we're hoping to have another 100 plus matches, and we still might tweak rules after that. And That was kind of the process. Is a lot of testing and a lot of thinking and deep thought. Uh, we definitely don't. We want more action. We want more scoring. We want more fan engagement. Want excitement and ways for fans to engage and to be able to second guess or armchair quarterback, like they do in some other sports. So that kind of went into the rule set. And what we've come up with, I think, is it's definitely a much faster paced, more exciting, fun to watch uh, set of rules. And hopefully, everybody embraces it. And so far, it's all been good though. All that we've done surveys, we've surveyed the athletes, we've surveyed the fans, and it's pretty much 100% unanimous that it's faster paced and more interesting to watch. And so that's huge if we're going to attract other types of, and it's still real wrestling. We have a couple rules that are a little different to get a lot of attention, but it's if you watch a match, it looks exactly like real wrestling. It is real wrestling, and so we think that will appeal to the core wrestling fans, but also hopefully broaden the audience.
Yeah. So how will the league work? Obviously, there's a set of teams and there's GMs and things like that. How do they become GMs and how do athletes get involved?
So initially there'll be 6 teams, and yes, they're managed. The rosters are managed by GMs. Uh, we're in the process of identifying and contacting GMs. We have a couple, but we're not naming them yet. Probably until we get all 6 of them. But we kind of like high profile people, that are popular, that are influencers, that have a big social media presence, uh, and also outside of wrestling in some cases, so that we can broaden the audience. But they'll draft their teams and manage their rosters, and there'll be free agency. And we've come up with a pretty innovative and cool system of managing rosters. It's kind of like that a lot of people will follow the NFL and the salary cap and stuff, which I would contend that most fans don't really understand,
Mhm.
but they're still into it and they follow it. We've come up with a system that it's really cool, but it's easier to understand and it allows sort of the same off-season engagement. Which wrestlers you retain on your team, which wrestlers you let go. It's not a salary cap; it's more based on how long you have them under contract. But it's super cool, and we got to engage fans in the off-season. And then once the league starts, the athletes will just register for the league, by a deadline for the first season, and then there'll be a draft, and the GMs will draft the team, and it's pretty straightforward the first year. The GMs will draft the team. There's 7 weight classes. They'll draft. The plan is that they'll draft 8 wrestlers for their team, so they sort of have one reserve. And then anybody who doesn't get drafted will be in a free agent pool, and they can be called up at any time. If there's an injury or a weight problem or a sickness or something, you can pull people off waivers, sort of, for free agency. So it's very similar to, like NFL or some other professional sports in that respect. And we hope, fans, that will be interesting. And then when the next year's draft comes around, that's where sort of our innovative system of who you have to retain, who you can retain, and who you let go comes into play.
Hmm. So, and then on top of that, I believe you have, there's a number of dual meets and things that are going to happen. But, in the past with, these other different cards and things, we've seen, one-offs from Jordan Burroughs, David Taylor, a lot of these other guys. Are there going to be things set up like that as well, where there's kind of an all-star aspect of it, or will it be solely team focused?
Yeah, I mean, the plan is team focused. So, a lot of the professional attempts in the past have sort of been like cards.
Hmm.
And, we've always felt like the fans have to be engaged and care about the league and the teams and the consequences of the matches. So like a card, you can have an incredible all-star card, but it doesn't really matter, if the guys win or lose. So you can see some great wrestling, but there's no real consequences because it's not a league. It's just an exhibition match, really. So we really felt strongly that there has to be a league. There's got to be a set schedule so people know when the matches are. They're on at convenient times or 24/7, whenever you want. One of the difficulties with freestyle internationally is you've got matches at 3 o'clock in the morning and that type of stuff, and it's hard to find out where to watch them. So it's going to be easy to find, predictable. There's a schedule. Every Wednesday night or every Sunday afternoon, whatever it is, there'll be the claw matches. When the season starts, when the season ends. And then every match has consequences because it will determine if the teams make the playoffs, and what their seeding is in the playoffs. So right now, for example, we have 6 teams, 2 divisions of 3, and the division winner in each division will go to the playoffs, and then one wild card team will go to the playoffs. And the wild card team will wrestle the number 2 seed in the playoffs, and then the winner will wrestle for the championship. But it all leads to the playoffs, and then what we're calling the Super Duel, the Super Duel Championship, to crown a team champion. At the beginning, fans, will they have a team? No, because they don't even know who the teams are yet, right? So how do you start? We really want to build brand loyalty with the teams, but that would just take some time because at the beginning, people, won't have a favorite team. There's no history. But so they might pick a team because their favorite wrestler gets drafted on their team. A kid might pick a team because they like the mascot. You might like the colors. You might like them because they're underdogs, their style of wrestling, whatever. But over time, we're going to try to do a lot of things to build that brand loyalty, not just with the league, but with teams as well. And teams is a element missing from combat sports, like in the MMA world. As popular as UFC is and MMA, there's not team sports. And we think we have an advantage too because, wrestling is the only youth sport, combat sport done in schools. And almost 1 million kids wrestle in the United States, and there's no professional league for them to follow. So, we think that's in our favor too.
Yeah. How, and this is going to go towards, you said something about NIL and the athletes. What's going to be the enticing factor of bringing in these athletes, right? Obviously, money is a big factor. We're hearing a lot about it in college sports right now with NIL, as you said. How are these athletes going to be compensated, and what's going to be the enticing factor of bringing them into this league?
So there's a variety of reasons we hope that they'll be enticed to come into the league. And certainly money is for a lot of athletes, probably the most enticing factor. So if we can pay the athletes decent money at the beginning, it wouldn't be enough, to be a full-time job. It's not their only job. In fact, the league, the way it's structured is, I didn't mention this before, but the initial season, the 6 teams, all wrestle each other once. So it's a 5 dual meet schedule. And then there's the playoffs. And the dual meets they're usually double headers. So the athletes only have to come wrestle 2 or 3 times during the regular season to do their matches. And then we might spread them out, over broadcasting, or we might broadcast the double headers. But so for just 2 or 3 times, if they make the playoffs, maybe 4, they'll have the ability to make some decent money, maybe like $40,000-$50,000. So that's nice supplemental income for a lot of the athletes. Right now to make that kind of money, NIL's changing it for the college guys. But, you can be an assistant coach, you can do some camps, you can do some periodic, miscellaneous cards or events. But like the Living the Dream Fund, that the top wrestlers in the world get for winning medals, that's money in comparison to that. So from all our interviews with athletes, top athletes, the money seemed to be, pretty attractive to them. But there's other factors. We're hoping, it has to work within their schedule. So our league is in the fall. which seems to be a slower, more downtime, for the senior level wrestles. After Worlds or Olympics, and before you start gearing up for the trials and everything for the following year. Sometimes there's the World Cup in there, but other than that, there's it's a pretty good time, October, November timeframe. Uh, and so we're hoping that the money's enticing. We're hoping that they'll want to be involved with something that could be a game changer for the sport of wrestling. That and we've seen that some athletes don't care about that, and some athletes are like, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the first league, and man, if this takes off someday and really works, that we could have been there at the beginning is pretty cool. And we're also hoping it will just help their brands. As we bring in more fans to the sport of wrestling, and they know who these wrestlers are, they can watch them wrestle freestyle then.
Mm-hmm.
They can watch them wrestle in other matches. If they're trying to sell apparel or whatever their personal brand is, it'll bring more exposure to it. So we're hoping all those reasons, the athletes will embrace it, and we also think they're just going to love it. I mean, we're going to treat them like professional athletes. We say fans first, but athletes are right up there with it. We want to treat them right. We want to treat them like the incredible athletes and talented athletes that they are, and and help them succeed and help them stay in the sport longer than they might have been otherwise able to, and help them. We'll help them get camps and clinics on our own and stuff like that. So there's sort of a whole plan to help athletes benefit from this. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get the word out to all the athletes, and for everybody to see it, because there's a lot of skepticism, because there's lots of cards, right? And people have said they're going to do professional leagues in the past, and like, here comes another one. But we're really trying to go about it differently. Like I said, a comprehensive plan. From a business plan perspective, there's so much more than just the rules, to run a successful professional sports league. And so I think that's back to your earlier question. I think that's one of the things that's maybe different from past efforts. This isn't trying to do a couple paid wrestling events. This is really trying to create a comprehensive, holistic league and address all the critical factors that have to be addressed. And getting into things like, we're hoping to be able to offer betting in the first year. And we're working with a group now that they'll figure out the odds, and you'll be able to bet on various aspects, even in year one, on some of the betting sites. We'll definitely have fantasy leagues for people to wrestle, for people to compete in, to participate in, and what the athletes wear, merchandise, like I said, the schedule, the rules, all these. There's so many things that go into it, and that's why it's taking us 2 to 3 years, instead of what we thought we might originally. The more you dig into some of the stuff, the more you realize, oh, we got to address that too. We got to do that right too, and things take time sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So I know you said that the league doesn't launch until 2025, but you have some test events and things like that coming up. When are those events, and then when do you expect the league to launch?
Yeah, so the big one that's coming up is called the Claw Invitational, and what we really wanted to do is, we've got some great sponsor and investors that are interested in Claw, and the athletes as well, but they're not sure exactly what it is yet. We can talk about it like this, but like, they want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we did an event last May called the Claw Open, and we sort of it wasn't really meant for the public, so we videotaped it and we voiced in announcing after the fact and stuff to give people an idea. But this time we really want to show exactly what this is going to be. So it's going to be professionally produced. Ross Productions, which does a ton of events on ESPN for professional leagues. The guys on our team did the NCAAs for college wrestling for many years in the past. So Shane Sparks will be announcing with the broadcast partner, and Mike Mao, formerly of Flow, will be there interviewing athletes after matches and beforehand and stuff. So we're really trying to do a professional stream. It will be streamed for free. This is June 23rd, by the way. I guess I didn't mention that. It's coming up. And then it will also allow us to test some of our in-person entertainment ideas, to entertain a crowd, and to make sure that when a crowd comes, like I was saying earlier, whether they know anything about wrestling or not, they're going to have a great time and be telling everybody about it afterwards. I don't know if you followed if you've heard of Banana Ball.
Hmm.
Uh, have you heard of Banana Ball?
Yeah, I
Uh,
have.
so Banana Ball is they're all about the fans, and it's an alternative form of baseball for people who aren't familiar with it. And it's sort of Harlem Globetrotter-ish in some of the things that they do, but boy, there's a lot to learn from them and how to engage and entertain fans. And so we're going to experiment with some things at our June 23rd event. It's a 2-day tournament, uh, but the first day it's not open to the fans because there'll be a lot of new refs and a lot of new table workers and a lot of new athletes doing it for the first time. And so there'll probably be some kinks to work out. But then on Sunday, June 23rd in the afternoon will be the finals. And we're selling tickets on our website. It's in Northern Virginia, if anybody's in that area. We're expecting a lot of great wrestlers, and then for that event, we're gonna have two celebrity coaches that draft the finalists onto their teams. So it will be like a dual meet, and the two teams will be two of our Claw teams, the Enforcers, the Cradle City Cicadas, and they'll wear their uniforms. They won't be wearing singlets in this league, uh, based on research with non-wrestling people. And we'll have a dual meet, and we think it's going to be a great event. It will be a great showcase so that people can understand what it's all about. Because even the athletes aren't, they hear about some of the modified rules and and who are these guys. So we really want to do a professional production to kind of show the world what Claw is all about, and a great stream and then a great live experience as well. So that's June 23rd. Uh, we might also do some sort of RTC dual tournament in the fall when wrestling season happens. When the whole wrestling world is sort of more engaged with wrestling. And then next spring, just about a year from now, we'll have the first draft, the first annual draft for the league for the 6 teams, and then the first season would begin in October of 2025. So it seems like a long time away, but there's a lot to do still to get ready for it.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you sitting down and kind of talking us through what claw wrestling is and what the league is going to entail and what things are going to look like. Do you have anything else for us before we let you go today?
Yeah, just we really appreciate everybody's support. Uh, we know, especially like with respect to rules, people have different views, and sometimes the wrestling community can be fragmented. The one classic example of everybody coming together was, to save wrestling in the Olympics, and that's what we're really hoping for this time. That people will support this and give it a chance, because we're working really hard and trying to address everything, to finally make this happen for our sport. It's needed more than ever, with NIL and other things that are going on. And so we're hoping the wrestling community gives it a fair shake and watches, and we're listening to feedback, and we'll make changes and we'll make it better. But if the wrestling community gets behind this and as the core group, then we can expand out to other markets. It could be huge for wrestling. So thank you for having me on today to be able to talk about it. And yeah, we'll hope for the best.